is Jason Jasmine's lapdog in this fight? Jason did not stand up for Janet at the racetrack when Jesse attacked her. And then when people asked Jason about it, he said, well, my wife doesn't need protecting. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that. That is stupid. That's horrific. And that is uncalled for. But he is Jasmine's lapdog in this fight.
Well, because I don't think he's Jasmine's lapdog in this.
No, he's not. He's Janet's lapdog
100%.
in this fight.
100%.
So Janet has sent him to this fight to attack Danny, is what's going on. That's what's going on.
Listener discretion advised. Adult language and mature content.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Two Queens, One Screen. I'm Jen.
I'm Keeley.
And we are currently really into our snacking. Keeley has leveled up my snacking by sending me the Costco Dubai chocolates.
Yeah.
I had food poisoning, and then now all I eat is Dubai chocolate. So thank you so much. They're delicious.
You are so welcome.
If you guys haven't had them yet, they have them at Costco, but they didn't have them at mine. I sent my sister to go get some. They were sold out. So if you see the big green bag, just buy it. Just buy it immediately.
Yeah.
It's going to change your life.
Yes.
Unless you're Matt, because then you're allergic to nuts and you can't have any.
Yes, they are still available on Amazon. However, if you cannot find them at your local Costco warehouse.
I feel like all I have going on right now is this podcast, the shows that I'm watching, and what new snacks I'm discovering.
Yeah.
So you should be the Dubai chocolates. I told you about the late night Doritos tacos, which taste exactly like even the beef. It tastes exactly like a Doritos Locos beef taco supreme.
Okay. I'll have to look for those.
If you see it, it's like a dark black bag.
Okay.
With orange on it. It's
perfect.
Worth getting that. And then my favorite drink is the new blackberry cucumber LaCroix.
Beautiful.
What else are you eating right now?
Super refreshing. Nothing.
Just Dubai chocolate?
Just chocolate. Yep.
Just Dubai chocolate and Dutch Bros?
Yep, absolutely.
Have you tried their dulce de leche? How do you say it? Dulce de leche or dulce de leche?
I don't know. Both of those sound good to me.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's really good.
Okay.
It's delish. But do you know what I've noticed? So they just started opening Dutch Bros by my house. So now we have, I think, 3 of them I say by my house. It's still like a 15-minute drive for me to get to one. You have one right around the corner.
I do. I have quite a few around the corner. And when I say around the corner, they are literally, a half a block, maybe 2 blocks, and then another block. You're in Florida, and so they're 15 minutes.
They only started opening within the last year here.
Yeah.
Proximity to Dutch Brothers, I think, is the only thing that could ever convince Matt to move to Boise. But it's like a strong contender. Yeah. But do you know what I've noticed is they've started hiring a lot of young men. And Matt and I were in line the other day, and I was getting my large iced Golden Eagle chai, half sweet, no drizzle, with 2 extra shots of espresso. And I want a cute little girl bopping around, and I want her to be pretty and charming and tell me that my nails are cute. I need her to compliment me. And Matt's like, you are a dirty old man.
Oh.
I was like, I don't want a boy. I want like a cute, I was like, where are the cute young girls? And Matt's like, that's inappropriate. You need to stop. That's half the reason I love Dutch Brothers, though.
Yeah, the last time I went through the drive-thru, there was 2 cute young girls that took my order, but the one was standing behind the one taking the order, so I thought, okay, she's training, which was perfectly fine. And then when I gave her my order, the poor young girl that was training turned around to her person that was doing the training like I had just spoke another language and just looked at her with her eyes wide open. And she goes, oh, she means a blended freeze, because apparently I had forgot to say a blended freeze after all of my blah, 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 blah that I said. And
wait,
she turned around.
What's your order?
It was just a picture perfect, which is just basically a chocolate caramel and drizzle and more chocolate and more caramel and, you know, all of these different things in there. But she had no idea what it was, which was fine because she's new. And I felt so bad. So she turned around, had no idea what it was. So she turned back around to me and I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she goes, no, that's my fault. And I said, no, it is my fault that I should have said it was a blended freeze. And she said, well, that's very nice for you to say. And I said, well, I should be more cognizant that you're learning. I need to pay attention to that. And her trainer's like,
she's gotta learn these orders.
But I need to be nice. You can't just be rude to these people either, right?
No.
Jen, hello.
Tonight we went out to dinner. And
oh my God.
At the place, one of the things that they have at this restaurant is they have a fun ice cream flavor, and every night it changes. So you can only get one kind of ice cream, but it's different every night. So you never know when you go in what the flavor is going to be. They're consistently incredible. I was like, oh, what's the flavor of ice cream you all have tonight? She's like, oh, the machine's broken. And I was like, oh, she's like, yeah, I'm so sorry. No, what? Did you break the machine? And I said it just like that. And I said it with a mean face, but like in my head, it was funny. But she was like, no, I cleaned the machine. And I was like, no, I was just kidding. Somebody else must have broken it. I'm sorry. And I was like, I need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we are.
Sometimes my jokes are just for me. If you haven't noticed by listening to our podcast. Yeah. So speaking of inflated egos and narcissism,
ooh,
do you want to talk about episode 7 of The Valley?
Yeah. They named it Ring Around the Rumor, which is quite lovely.
This episode had me so heated. I thought I was mad last week, but then I was like, oh, it's going to get better. And I just ended up super pissed all over again.
Yeah.
Because the after show, some people want to double down for no good reason. And it makes me so mad. But they start off the episode with Jasmine and her girlfriend Melissa are going to go pick up Zach at LAX. And they were saying that that's a sign of true friendship. I am not taking people to the airport or picking them up. Unless they're coming to visit me, I'm not doing it. Get an Uber. I think it's rude. I think at this day and age, unless you're coming to visit that person, you should not be asking someone to pick you up from the airport.
Wow.
Or drop them off.
Nice.
Unless you're their significant other. And Matt and I, if we've got a work trip, we are Ubering ourselves.
Yeesh.
Not roping each other into that. And is that a strong stance?
Yeah, that's awful. That's
well, you're also in Boise, which doesn't have an insane airport.
Nice.
Where we're at Orlando Airport, which like going in the circle, you will be in the circle for an hour just to get through the circle once. Okay. So Boise is a smaller airport and it's a little bit. But who are you picking up or dropping off at the airport that you're not having visit you or that you're not related to?
Okay, well.
Do you have friends that are asking that of you?
Somebody snooty much. Wow, we are on one today. No more chocolate for you.
I've gotten Dubai chocolate and now I feel so fancy and entitled.
I don't know how we're going to get through this, everybody. This is going to be a couple hours of interesting.
I'm hopped up on a lot of sugar, guys.
Holy crap.
But anyway, we can talk about...
a lot of feelings.
So many feelings. It's only going to get worse.
It is.
Well, Jasmine and Melissa, before they pick up Zach, they're talking about Danny still. And she said that she has a right to bring it up until the day she dies. Technically, sure. But also, that's not healthy for anyone. They're gonna all have a sit down with Danny. She's gonna address it again with Danny, but she sees how maybe she shouldn't have thrown it at Nia because that wasn't helpful. And then they're picking up Zach, and Zach is just so excited to be picked up. Zach got in the front seat. Melissa got in the back seat. Zach got in the front seat. I think Zach should have gotten in the back seat.
Well, he got in the front seat because he had something to tell us. The camera was there. He had something to tell us.
That's true.
Come on.
He is the number one guy in the group.
Hello.
That's fair. He went on a road trip with Benji to see if they are really ready to move forward in their relationship, if this is something that they do actually want to pursue. They decided they do want to be boyfriend and boyfriend. And Benji met Zach's parents, and that went really well. Benji is still technically married, but he's been separated for 2 years. Zach is younger and hotter. It's that makes it okay. Do you think a road trip is a good way to establish whether or not you are a compatible couple?
Oh my God, yes. Hello.
Really?
You're spending the night together in horrible roadside motels. You're in a disgusting car, driving to disgusting gas stations, trying to find what food you're going to forage for to eat along the way, right? You're stopping at rest stops. Which rest stop are you going to stop at? Or are you going to pee along the side of the road? These are all decisions that you're going to have to make. And are you going to be okay with these decisions? Am I going to spend the rest of my life with a person who stops at rest stops and or pees on the side of the road? You know, is this okay? This kind of person? Yes. I think it's okay to do that.
All right. You've won me over to that. I was like, you're on vacation. It doesn't count. And actually, no, you've made good points. Solid points. All right. Good job, Zach and Benji. You survived the road trip and now you're ready for a committed relationship, which is cute. I do like them as a couple. Benji is so adorable. After that, we see Nia and Michelle, and they take the kids on a play date. Since Nia had left that dinner early, Michelle gives her kind of the recap of what happened after. Michelle wasn't as forthcoming as I think she could have been.
Yeah.
Michelle I think Michelle is so, and I don't even, the messy part of me is like, why didn't you talk shit? Yeah. And I think it's because she's too mired in her own drama that it's like, she's not here to like stir up much more after that.
Yeah.
And then they start talking about Jesse and how Jesse doesn't see that what he's doing is actually just triggering Michelle's responses. Michelle's not attacking him and triggering him. She's responding to him, and he doesn't see it at all. And Nia goes, yeah, because he's a narcissist. Which was like, oh, okay. So at least Nia's being really great and supportive in that version of it. And they were talking kind of more about, I guess, officially, Aaron and Michelle have not actually broken up totally. They're still kind of deciding, figuring things out. And Michelle's like, I get it. Like, I wouldn't want to be dealing with a female version of Jesse for the rest of my life either. I get like where he's coming from. It's a weird situation. What did you think of the I mean, I don't know, did you have to deal with any like crazy significant others?
No, I mean, my ex, you know, cheated on me the 4 times that I knew of. The one he's with now, she wasn't ever really crazy or ever really bad. I just stayed away from her. We just kind of kept our distance. It was completely fine. We just never interacted. We chose to not interact, and that was completely fine.
Ideal. I think that's so fucking
we just
ideal.
Chose to not interact. And then when we were forced to, and when I say forced, that's not the right word. What I mean by that is like a school carnival, I guess.
Yeah, when the occasion called for everyone to be at the same place.
Right. We're all in the same room. Nobody's saying anything to each other. That's all I mean by that. So it was fine. So
I think
no,
it's,
we never had that.
Good to be cordial when you have to be all together. Yeah. My problem is that I'm from my dad's first marriage. And then there was a chunk of time that my stepmom and my biological mom were best friends. My biological mom gave her wedding dress to my stepmom for my half-sister to have turn it into a Jasmine Halloween costume once. And then later on, my dad, when he got married for the 3rd time to his wife now, who we love and adore, his second wife was like giving them anniversary gifts, like after for their first anniversary, she like got them very expensive anniversary gifts. Like, why are you why are you doing this? Like, I think it's good to have boundaries.
Yeah.
I don't think, sorry, Michelle, I don't think that they should be going on trips together anymore. No. Even if it's in a big friend group, I think it's weird.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. I also haven't been in that position, so.
Yeah.
What do I know? Moving on. Danny, Jason, and Luke all get together for lunch. And this was fucking rough. Because basically, Jason starts calling out Danny for being drunk in Santa Barbara. And Danny's like, yeah. Although Danny kind of is like, I wasn't that drunk. It's like, well, you passed out because you were drunk. And he's like, well, I told her to wake me up. Yeah, I was really tired. I was planning on taking a nap either way. And everyone's like, no, you were definitely really drunk. But it was just...
Everybody else was drunk, too. Let's try and not forget that. But
it was a wine tasting event earlier in the day.
Yeah. So
and then they're having
what does it matter?
Dinner.
Yeah.
Jesse had 2 bottles of champagne before they got to the wine tasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are we all forgetting that the whole point of this trip was to get wasted?
Yeah. And because Danny decides to take a nap, everybody's upset about it. He steps away and decides to take a nap. Everybody's panties is in a wad. And I still don't understand. But Jason attacks him at this lunch.
And he also is like, you know, I've seen this dark side Danny, and I'm team Jasmine on this. Like, you were really out of control, and I feel like this is again, I just saw you get that out of control again. I don't think Danny was out of control. He took a nap. Did he take a swig of tequila? Sure. Who the fuck cares?
Yep.
Everyone was drinking. Again, why do we fucking care?
Right.
He wasn't belligerent. He wasn't rude.
No.
He wasn't inappropriate.
No.
And he's made a point to apologize. And I think that there's a thing where if you're Jason and you're going, hey, I know for a fact that Jasmine's not cool. The last conversation you had wasn't good enough. She's still really upset about it, which was part of the point of this conversation that he was having with Danny. But instead, he comes really hard at Danny instead of having a friendship conversation.
Right.
I think you can say, like, hey, I think you need to have another conversation with her. And instead, he really vilifies Danny. And Danny's like, slow your roll. You're being inappropriate. What are you talking about? This is not that big of a deal. Why are you coming at me so hard? I think he literally says, I thought we were like really good friends. I don't understand. I don't think it's this big of a deal.
Yeah.
And Jason's like, well, I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree. And Danny goes, says the lawyer. And Jason's like, yep. And he's like, but not the friend.
Yeah.
And Jason just goes, and Luke's just sitting there like, oh
my
God, eating it up. Luke was there, and he's like, I get to go tell Kristen.
Yeah.
And I get to say it on camera, and I'm earning my paycheck.
Why is Jason Jasmine's lapdog in this fight? Jason did not stand up for Janet at the racetrack when Jesse attacked her. And then when people asked Jason about it, he said, well, my wife doesn't need protecting. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that. That is stupid. That's horrific. And that is uncalled for. But he is Jasmine's lapdog in this fight.
Well, because I don't think he's Jasmine's lapdog in this.
No, he's not. He's Janet's lapdog
100%.
In this fight.
100%.
So Janet has sent him to this fight to attack Danny, is what's going on. That's what's going on.
Yeah. And even Danny's like blindsided by this. This isn't how Jason operates.
No.
We've never seen Jason aggressive. No. Everyone who talks about Jason is like, he's so sweet and level-headed and just such a kind guy and kind of a nerd. And so this didn't make any sense.
No, you can see he's completely uncomfortable with this whole situation. He's completely uncomfortable attacking his friend and saying these things to his friend that he's saying. He doesn't want to say these things to Danny. You can tell he doesn't want to say these things. And he's saying these things because Janet is making him say these things.
It's one of those things where you have that conversation enough times. I think he's had the conversation enough times with Janet that like that became his truth.
Yep.
But then when he got out of that Janet echo chamber and he started to continue with that same line of reasoning and continue with that same set of points that felt so intense when they had been having that conversation for the last, and then when he actually goes and starts to address it in person, you watch it crumble and him go, oh, wait, maybe I'm not quite standing on such a strong foundation of an argument here.
And then Danny, we see this flashback when Danny was like, what the hell is going on? I just talked to Jason last week in Santa Barbara. Jason was in the hot tub. And he said, Jason says, if Janet was that drunk and wasted and she passed out, I'd probably say she was sleeping too. And Danny's like, he just said that to me a week ago. And now he's yelling at me. I don't, what is going on? So Jason is making no sense. And why? It's because Janet is telling him to do all of this.
So out of character. I really enjoyed watching Luke watch that conversation happen because he's just thrilled. He is thrilled to be included and he is thrilled to pass on what he saw to others. Then we move on. Jax is in rehab. So we see little bits of him kind of doing like a video diary from rehab, which... When we find out the shit that he gets done in rehab, I don't know why the cameras aren't in there. Just 100% honest. Like the rage texting that he's doing over and over and over again all day long because in the state of California, they legally can't take your phone or whatever. The other stuff that we're about to get into, it doesn't make sense that we don't just have the cameras in there because it's dumb. He's excited. He's going to finally see Cruz. He's crying because he's missed Cruz so bad. And he also is like looking forward to having a real conversation with Brittany because there's so much that he needs to say to her. And he's had all of these realizations. And, he's been going back and forth in the texting where he's either going like, I see what I've been doing wrong. And oh my God, this is changing my life to, you're a piece of shit and you were texting other people. And like, I'm watching you and all this craziness. But we see Brittany after the cruise meet up with Jax, which had been at a random park. Brittany is at her rental with her mom and they're setting up for a pool party and it's Shark Week themed. Brittany throws a hell of a party. Like it is so much.
Random? I didn't understand. It was a random party? Is that?
Shark Week. Shark Week started. She loved Shark Week on the Discovery Channel.
Okay.
And so it's a Shark Week themed party plus she has a pool. And so, there is a bar set up, there are pool decorations, there are people, it was a lot. She's giving her mom a recap of what she went through. Basically what happened is Jax and Cruz have time with the nanny and his therapist, like supervised visitation with Cruz. For about 30 minutes they play. Brittany had gave space for that so he could have one-on-one time with his son. And then Brittany came about 30 minutes later and they send Cruz away and they sit down with Jax's therapist so Jax can, have a conversation with her with his therapist there. He needed a neutral party to mediate the conversation. It comes out he's uncovered the cameras that they had all over the house. And he's been like spying on Brittany and telling her that he's got people watching her. And then he'll throw out, I know that you're wearing red pants today, just to make her feel insane and crazy. And then he also goes, I've decided this is what makes me insane about whatever this fucking rehab or mental health facility was. He decides after Brittany has been 4 months Airbnb hopping because she told Jax to leave. Jax refuses to leave the house. She tells Jax to leave. He won't leave. She goes, you know what? I see now that was not the best thing. I'm going to be a man and I'm going to man up and I'm going to be the dad that Cruz needs. And I think to repair our relationship, you and I should just try dating each other again. And to do that, we can't be in the same space. So I'm going to move out of the house. I just signed a lease for a condo right next to Tom Schwartz. So he left the mental health facility to go pick stuff up from his actual house. So he was allowed to leave, go back to his house, pick stuff up from his house. That's where he also took stuff off the camera so he could start spying on Brittany, who was going back and forth between her house and her rental. And he also then was able to go sign a lease, which is thousands and thousands of dollars. We know that Brittany's spending like $8,000 on Airbnbs, right? A month, because she has to get one with a pool for a cruise, and she got like $2 million from Jenny Craig on top of her other endorsements and stuff.
Yeah.
So she's bringing in money. Brittany's like, what the actual fuck? One, he's just been diagnosed with a mental disorder and bipolar. Why are you letting him sign paperwork while he's in a mental health facility?
Yeah.
Two, you know that I just signed up for 3 months. I had to pay in advance for this Airbnb.
Yeah.
I've already offered to let you stay in the Airbnb if it's important for you to keep routine for Cruz because he's autistic. It's important to keep a routine, to have him in a familiar space. I don't get to do that because of your dumbass choices. It's fucking chaos here.
Yeah.
She's like, and now you've just gone and spent all this money on a condo? What are you doing? It doesn't make sense. So she's pissed. And she's angry. Jax is blindsided by this. And apparently the therapist was also like, I thought this was a great idea. At least Jax said that the therapist thought it was a great idea and was very supportive.
Yeah.
What kind of mental health facility is $30,000 a month and also has no oversight of any real kind?
Right.
Did that blow your mind the way it blew my mind?
Yeah, a mental facility that's for celebrities, apparently, that they can just do whatever they want. That's what it is. These celebrities are the ones that run the show there. Because no actual therapist is going to think that that's okay. I'm going to tell you right now. No actual working licensed therapist is going to think someone as fucking crazy as Jax Taylor thinks that's a good idea, because Brittany kept saying that Jax is like, see, just tell her, see, it's a good idea. See, tell her it's a good idea. No, you don't act like that. That's something a preteen would say, right? That you're a 45-year-old grown ass person of some sort. You don't have to have another person to turn around and go, see, this is what I said. I'm going to have this person here to prove my point, to back me up. And apparently this is a licensed medical professional. No. No.
I think even Brittany says he's just charmed these people too, apparently.
Yeah.
And you sent me the video of a compilation of Jax at every single Vanderpump reunion that he was at, where he goes, I'm a work in progress. I'm just like, I was so sick of myself. I'm making all these terrible decisions, but at least I'm owning up to it and I'm trying. Yeah. I'm really trying to work on myself, and I'm seeing a therapist, and he does it every single year. Yeah. And he's doing it right now.
Yes.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But we'll get to more of him. Yeah. But we also finally get to see Danny have a sit down with Melissa and Jasmine.
Finally, lunch. Again, we have just to see this again. I'm so sorry that I have to act like this, but again, this poor man has to get on his hands and knees and crawl to these two women and beg for their forgiveness again. You know, Jax Taylor is not begging for forgiveness
no, he's not.
From anybody. Mm-mm. And Danny cannot stop apologizing for his behavior, but people keep bringing up his behavior over and over again like he's never said he was sorry.
Right. And we saw him have the first conversation with them at the white party. Yeah. This one was like very direct. The reason they are sitting down is because he wants to have this conversation and apologize again and understand. And Jasmine, I appreciated that she was like, I need you to get this point. This is where I'm not cool. And it's, again, really based in that idea of she is in a same-sex couple and they are not afforded the same respect, not just in society, but within their friend group. Because Danny would not have done that to one of the other women in the group who was attached to one of his male friends.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Because he hasn't done it to any of the other women.
You don't know that he wouldn't have done it in the future.
That's true.
That's true. She cannot say that, and nobody can say that. Okay. That pisses me off. That's not okay to do. She cannot make that bold of a statement because that happened to her. That's not okay. That's not okay to do.
No.
That's not okay to make that inference to him because of her sexuality. That's not okay. I'm sorry.
Well, she's saying that she, at least that's the reason that she does say that she feels that way. She's triggered that way, whether it's based in reality or not. It felt more intense to her because they had been friends, and she felt like that should have been a safe space when in public in general, she and her girlfriend are hounded to prove that they're really gay by kissing or hit on by men, and it becomes this like fetishized moment. So I think she made this point, and he goes, you know what, I didn't see that before. I can acknowledge, like, I didn't see that being what the issue was for you, and I didn't think about what that experience would be like for you, and I apologize. I'm sorry, I didn't see it that way. I see it now. I promise it's never going to happen again. I'm sorry I put you in a position that you would feel that way. And he had a very genuine apology. And she goes, after, we're cool. I appreciate you coming to me. We're cool. Here's the problem. I don't think they're going to be cool.
No.
It seems right now, seems cool. I don't think going forward it's going to be cool.
No. Because in the clip for next week, he goes up to her and says, the stuff you're saying about me is a problem, is affecting our friend group, because she won't let it go.
You can say like, listen, I'm not cool yet. You can say that. Like, I appreciate your apology.
Right.
I'm not there yet with you.
Right.
And she has every right to say that.
Sure.
But she's not saying that.
No.
She's saying we're cool.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the fuck she's got to say next week.
Yep.
But at this point, she says they're good. Danny feels great. And again, justice for Danny. Danny has tried to apologize multiple times.
Yep.
Danny has gone to therapy with his wife.
Yes.
Apparently there was group therapy. Not clear about the parameters of group therapy, but apparently there was, and individual therapy.
Yes.
And he was going to church and having to talk about it at church.
Yes.
Like he's doing the work of trying to repair the damage that was done.
Yes.
So if I was Danny, I'd be like,
what else do you want me to do? Exactly.
Right. Like, I realize that I've done something bad. This is what I can do to repair it. If that's not good enough for you, then I think I'm done. I guess, hopefully, that's what's going to happen next episode, because the fact that he's having to have a conversation after they just had this very good conversation makes me insane.
Yep.
Kristen and Luke get together for breakfast with Jesse. And Luke is just very excited to tell Jesse and Kristen about that lunch that he went to with Jason and Danny.
Yep.
Basically Jesse is kind of whatever about, like, Jesse doesn't really give a shit. Jesse's got no horse in this race. He thinks the whole thing is stupid. Just saying, they were talking about Danny and how Jason's going after Danny.
Oh.
And of course, Kristen is now full on Team Nia.
Yeah.
They're soul sisters.
Yeah.
And she's like, they're attacking my friend. And this was so fun. I am going to shit on Luke until the day I die, but I will say that he was handling this like, fun because he was sitting there and Lisbeth wants to soak up all the little drama. But then he watched Kristen, her wheels turning and seeing her rev up.
Yes, and she's getting her drink.
And crazy Kristen's about to come out and he's like, don't do it. I think he said he was like tapping her thigh.
Yes.
Like, don't do this.
Yep.
And she's like, well, maybe Janet needs to worry about her own husband because he's taking his ring off. In pure Kristen fashion, like, she cannot retell a bit of delicious gossip correctly. She really can't. And last season, Michelle had a boyfriend for a year. She kissed a guy a year ago. That's not what happened. Yeah. And then, like, all the details she gets slightly wrong every single time. Yeah. So this one, she's like, Jason takes his ring off, and Luke's like, stop it. Don't do this. Like, we don't need this right now. And she's like, nope, you've attacked my family. And she stands by this. She's 100% wrong for him saying it, in my opinion. And she's 100% fuck this guy, I will burn their world down. But the gossip is that Jason's been taking his ring off when he goes out. Which, okay, Jason's universally acknowledged as not like a player. Also,
But how do we know that? Listen. How do we know that? Jason is the good guy, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Jason is the nice guy, quote unquote. Jason is the guy that I've already deemed won't stand up for his wife when someone is verbally abusing and attacking him. We watched that. But Jason is so nice. Jason is always
meek.
there for he's meek. Those are the people that you have to watch out for. I 100% believe this guy is taking his ring off. He's married to Janet.
Well, he loves
Look at
Janet.
his wife.
He's into Janet. Janet can do no wrong. He does not see her
Stop it.
for who she really is.
No. This man has got you have got to not be blinded by this niceness and this meekness. When we talk about our second part of our podcast, that person we're going to talk about,
All right.
think about that person. That person lied and everybody believed her. So,
That's true.
I mean, she was the nicest person. She was a super mom and everybody believed her. You cannot, I mean, there have been people in the news that lived a completely second life and have done horrible, horrible things. I'm not equating Jason to a serial killer by any means.
You heard it here first, everyone.
But I am
Jason
saying
is a serial killer.
I'm just
He
telling
actually
you.
would be one of my first guesses in this because he is so quiet. It's like, oh, it's that one. He's the quiet
Right.
one.
He's very quiet. He's just everybody's friend. He will stand there and smile. He will be the first one to get up and go chase after you when you leave the table and you're upset. That is the person you need to be wary of. And I'm going to tell you right now, he's taking his fucking ring off when he leaves the house. If she is putting an air tag on him when he leaves, shut up. Shut
That
up
is-
right now.
I mean, you know how I feel about tracking location.
Yeah.
I use it only for shopping.
And this has been going on for years and years.
Well, yeah. So apparently this rumor started 2 or 3 years ago. It was with another set of friends that at the time stopped being friends with him because of Janet.
Yes.
And
Fair.
they were talking shit about him to Jasmine. And Jasmine told Zach, and if Zach hears anything, he will be telling Kristen. He proclaimed, he's like, don't tell me a secret that you don't want Kristen to know, because
Right.
Kristen's gonna know.
Right.
I love him for that. And then Kristen is going to retell it slightly wrong, which is great. Out of context. She's just gonna throw it out the second that she's mad. But yeah, Jesse thinks it's dumb. He doesn't care either way.
He doesn't care either way, and he thinks it's dumb because it's true.
Huh?
Because he's a narcissist and a piece of shit, and because he's a cheater and a liar, and he doesn't care. That's why he thinks it's not a big deal. That's why.
But
they all stick together.
It is funny that Luke loves the drama until it's Kristen doing it, and he's like, be the good one. He's like, we are in the mess, we are not of it.
Yeah,
So she's like fucking throwing it everywhere. Oh, so Brittany's about to throw her party now.
Yeah.
And she's got Zach and Michelle show up, and then everyone comes in later. But Zach is getting ready. He has hired. They're gonna get spray tans, but then Zach gets makeup people to come, and he does all of, I guess, for different events and things, he'll get different spray outfits, and they always incorporate airbrush abs into it, which good for him, right?
Yeah.
My stomach, it would be pointless because I carry twins, so it's it's a mess on there.
Oh, he's
But,
so beautiful. He's got such a
is.
chiseled, beautiful face, and
He's cutie,
Yeah.
and so he gets special shark bite makeup put on,
and his swim trunks with Brittany's face were
which
so,
were so cute.
Yeah.
And apparently they came from Stassi. They were originally a gift that Stassi got for Jax, and she got a couple different sizes because she wasn't sure what size were going to fit Jax. And then the extra ones, Zach was like, yoink! And so he wears his little Britney shorts.
Yeah.
Oh no, I wonder if Matt needs Jen shorts.
Yes.
Do you want a Jen bra?
No.
A
Thank
little
you.
bikini? A little.
No.
I meant to bikini. I don't know. I said bra.
No.
All right, fine. See how it is.
I do like when Brock and Sheena showed up. Brock's underline, it said Brittany's friend. Not Sheena's husband. Brittany's friend.
Well, because she is not a real full cast member. Yeah, this adult pool party, everyone came in like they were walking the red carpet, which was fun. Yeah. And then Lala comes in.
Yeah.
Is Lala pregnant?
Yes.
Yeah, Lala's pretty pregnant at this point. And I loved her this episode. And I was kind of done with Lala after the last season of Vanderpump. And then this time I was like, I love what she's adding to this show. Jesse walks over to her and like gives her a hug. And he's like, hey, what's going on? And then she proceeds to, at first, like, hey, you're a piece of shit. And then she explains to him why he's a piece of shit. And she's like, your daughter is going to see you doing this. If you found out that your daughter's boyfriend was behaving the way that you're behaving, you would show up with a shotgun and you feel good about yourself right now. And he's like, triggered. She's like, no, you suck. I don't ever want to have to deal with you. You are a waste of my time. And oh my God. Yeah. And it was, I wish that I could say it as eloquently as she did, but she dressed him down so nicely.
And his response was, even the strongest man or woman can have moments of weakness. What? Shut up.
Some Jack's piece of shit.
Yeah.
Excuse. Jack's going, show me a man that wouldn't. There's millions of them. Millions of men that wouldn't throw a table at their wife. If you were throwing out an excuse of like, anyone would have done this. No. That's not, it's not how it goes.
No.
That's not what everyone does.
I don't think so. Ugh.
And then Jason and Danny. Jason pulls Danny aside because like everyone's at the party now. Yeah. Pulls Danny aside and apologizes for coming at him so hard. And they have this really emotional apology and like, hey, I shouldn't have come at you like that. I'm really sorry. Like your friendship means a lot to me. You and I have gotten incredibly close and I shouldn't have done that. I don't think that and you're great and we're best friends and blah 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 and everyone's great. Can I get any higher with that? Can
Get it out. Get it out.
Jason in the interview was like, should just let him do whatever he's gonna do and it's not my business. That's not what he said in his apology to Danny.
No. And even in Watch What Happens Live, he said he and Danny are not good today. Like, as that of now, sucks. They're still not good. So, yeah.
Listen, I think it's very difficult if your significant other has beef with somebody. Yeah. It's going to be very, very hard to be close friends with that person. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But I think you don't have to throw them under the bus. I think you go, you and my wife are not getting along right now, and it sucks. I care about you. I hope you guys get it figured out. Until then, I've got to take space because I can't be in the middle of this. Mm-hmm. And then if your significant other sees you not getting to have your close friend anymore, maybe your significant other would go, am I 100% right in this? Should I back off? That's a close friend of my husband. Maybe I want them to be friends. That's not how Janet's rolling at all. It's also not how Jason's rolling.
Oh, God,
and that, I think, sucks.
Yeah. No.
I think Jason could have stayed neutral party. If he can stay fucking neutral party between Brittany and Jax.
Oh, yeah.
He sure as shit could have stayed neutral with this Danny shit. It doesn't make sense. Why she's going so hard against Danny.
No, this pantry gate is so stupid. It's the dumbest thing on the planet.
And I keep seeing little videos pop up of the Watch What Happens Live where they did the poll while Janet and Jason were on Watch What Happens Live. And they're like, what, did she make too big of a deal of this? Are you concerned about Danny's drinking? Yep. And it was just, and everyone's like, yeah, Janet sucks. Everyone's turned on Janet.
Yeah. Yep.
Jesse, after he gets ripped apart at the party by Lala, he goes and tells Jason what Kristen said about the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he just wants some heat off himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I need to set a little fire over there.
Mm-hmm.
I just need that to be away from me. And then Jason confronts Kristen. Jason and Janet laugh it off. Even Kristen's like, yeah, you attacked my friend, so I'm going to attack you. Which, not terribly grown up for new mom, grown up Kristen. But she's like, yeah, I said that because this is what I heard.
Well, Janet and Jason's body language was gross. They
What do you
couldn't
mean?
be sitting more on top of each other. Did you see that? When they're sitting next to each other confronting Kristen, and Luke and Kristen are sitting across from them.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically sitting on top of each other. Janet is holding Jason's hand, I mean, as tight and as close as she could possibly hold it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, leaning in to Kristen and Luke. And Janet's like, are you sorry you blurted that out? And they
Right.
couldn't be closer to each other. Like, she was holding on to Jason like he was going to be taken away by a tornado. I mean,
was a weird vibe.
Yeah.
It was a weird vibe. I did
Yeah.
think it was interesting that she was like, we are cool as long as you recant what you just said.
Right.
And
What?
I was like, that's not how that goes. Usually.
No.
She's like, why would you never tell me that before? And she's like, because we weren't friends, bitch. Like,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
that was glorious. That was super fun. And she's talking about how, like, she completely, in the interview, she completely trusts Jason.
Ew.
And I was like, yeah, but then she did end it with, and when he travels out of town, I put an AirTag on him for safety. And I went, what? Why are you doing that?
So why is it okay for Janet to say that Jason is perfect
Mm-hmm.
in the after show, but when Nia tries to say anything about Danny, the entire table erupts on her?
They're like, be honest. You're not honest enough.
What is going on? This is what I don't understand. Why did the friend group turn on Nia, but everybody in the after show is nodding? Oh, yes, Janet, Jason is perfect. Oh my God, you're right, Janet. Oh yeah. What is that?
What is this hold that Janet has?
Yeah.
What are we missing? What do we not know?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Jason is not perfect. There's something going on, and Janet's crazy.
Yeah. And you sent me a video that I watched, and it looks like in the interviews now,
Yeah.
Jason, under his wedding ring, has a tattoo
Yeah.
on his wedding finger. So
Yeah.
even if he takes his ring off,
Yeah.
so you made the point, clearly they needed to have that addressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, before you and I talked about it, I was 100% on team, it doesn't fucking matter. He never did that. Or if he did, it wasn't intentional. He was trying to go hit on girls. But now I feel differently after talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Matt only takes his ring off when he's working out.
Sure.
And then there's like engraving on the inside, and he has to make sure that the engraving is going on in the right direction. Like, he can't put it on upside down. Or else I feel like we're not married. and that freaks him out. He's got superstitions around this ring that he is fully made up in his mind.
Nice.
I have no idea which way is up or down with my ring. I flip it around all the time, but I always have mine on all the time. I think my dad I think Dad wears his, but he didn't used to. Huh? What does that say? I don't know. Do you wear yours all the time?
Mm-mm.
I don't think that for people, I don't look at rings and go, oh, if they're not wearing it, they're not fully committed.
But yeah, it has to do with the couple. Like they said, if Janet and Jason are wearing, that's the couple that wear it all the time, right? It's specific to that couple. So
right. I didn't put too much into it, but now I'm like, wait, is he secretly awful? I don't know.
I think.
Well, no, we're seeing him being shitty right now. So the last bit of this episode had me screaming. And then with the after show and how they go into further explanation of this, Brittany is at the bar with Tom Schwartz and Jasmine. And It's the bar that's like Jax's.
Yeah.
But it's also technically Brittany's.
Yeah, I think so.
Did they rename it too?
I don't think so. I
possibly?
think it's still Jack's
Is it still
studio.
Jax's? Brittany's sitting down and Jasmine's there to be supportive, and she's catching up with Tom Schwartz, which... Do we all love Tom Schwartz?
No.
No?
No.
Matt loves Tom Schwartz. I don't know how he can be the age that he is, have the experiences that he's had, and be such a fucking dumbass. I don't know. But I do see him trying. But I think the fact that he is always fawning, right? That's his fear response, is to fawn. That hand that like almost was trying to rub Jax's back and he doesn't know what to do. Yeah. He's fucked up. But Brittany starts catching him up and he's like, Jax is doing great. And she's like, the fuck? What do you mean he's doing great?
Tell me about it.
And he's like, yeah, that he's got his diagnosis and he's on new medicine and he's got a new lease on life and he's seeing everything so clearly and he's feeling so good about everything and everything's moving this really positive direction. And Brittany's like, that's interesting. So, you know, he's about ready to go into that new condo next year. He's like, yeah, so you can move back into the house. And she's like, yeah, that fucking sucks. Why is that happening? Between the after show and like watching it in real time. I'm just going to skip ahead to what we learned in the after show because that gives you a full picture of it. So he went and signed that lease. And he, in the after show, explains that he had been talking to his real estate agent / lawyer, and they found this place that was right in his budget. His budget, how the fuck does he have a budget? Because their mortgage, the mortgage on the house that they built, is $18,000 a month, which makes me want to throw up.
Yeah.
That's insane. It should have been $8,000 a month.
Yeah.
Still makes me want to throw up.
Yeah.
But because Jax just didn't pay taxes for 6 years plus, their mortgages are super, super, super high because they've got to make up for that. And Brittany says, you know, he just thought that it would go away. He thought that he didn't need to pay taxes. And Jax defends himself by saying, who hasn't made a mistake on their taxes? Again, the strongest men and women will have their weak moments.
What?
Like, okay, fuck off, you narcissist.
No.
So disgusting. And not only that, he had moved... So Brittany moved out January 24th. And Jax, the month of February on, just said fuck it and stopped paying the mortgage. Just stopped paying the bills on the house. So he paid the mortgage and then Brittany paid all the other bills. And in the end, it would shake out to be about even because she's paying for electricity, water, gas, cable, health insurance.
Yeah.
Things for crews, groceries, the cars. It all worked out basically about the same. So now Brittany's paying for all those things still and paying for her Airbnb. And Jax is just stopped paying the mortgage. But Brittany didn't know that. She didn't find out until August. So that's February, March, April, May, June, July, August. That's 7 months of not having your mortgage paid. Doesn't your house go into foreclosure?
Yes, it does. Because I've had that happen to me before. If you're not a celebrity, they contact you way ahead of that. When my cheating husband didn't do that, it was 2 months. They let that go for 2 months. And on the 2.5 month mark, they said, we're coming for you. So they give celebrities quite a bit of grace.
It just seems insane to me. So he brushes it off in the after show. He's like, yeah, I was in my, like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck it mentality. I don't care. Yep. Like, it was nothing. He's like, yeah, and so I just had to write a check. It was a couple $1,000 check that I'd write. That was a fun check to write.
Shut up.
The money means, it's like it didn't click for him. But then at the same time, this is also the guy that is eBay selling $20 mascara to like at least get some income stream coming in. But holy fucking shit. So of course Brittany's like, this is insane. She's like, I'm fucking done. Is this her moment where she really, really, really checks out? I think so, maybe. I thought she maybe had already fully checked out, but I think this was the final straw for her.
Yeah.
She hadn't gotten a lawyer yet.
Yeah.
It was the most frustrating thing to me that she didn't have a lawyer through all of this. When the second that he flipped a table at her,
I know.
Well, all the things before that he was doing. And now it took him destroying her credit and her maybe losing that house, because she'll do whatever she has to do to keep this house.
Yeah.
That's what makes me so frustrated, that like she didn't take the time to protect herself fully before, because she didn't think he would go that low.
Yeah.
Jax is always going to go lower.
Yeah.
He's always going to go lower.
Yeah.
So fucking awful.
Yep. Just like Zach said, rock bottom, he's going to lift up the rock and go, oh, wait, no, I need to go lower.
I found the trap door into a new rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this week just was a slow burn of here's more to be mad about.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, I think shit's going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
The Jasmine shit's going to hit the fan. And Jax is getting out of rehab. I think, is he? We'll see. They always tease us. Yeah. So they're going to say he's getting out of rehab, and then it'll be in the last 2 seconds of the show that he's out of rehab. But seeing him, he's screaming at Brittany that he can't just turn it off. He doesn't just give up on marriage like she is.
Yeah. There's gaslighting her again. Anytime he talks to her, all he does is gaslight her about her feelings. Yeah. And it's gross to watch.
Well, this idea that she's the one that's given up on the marriage. He threw a table at her. He stopped paying the mortgage on their home.
On purpose.
On purpose. Yeah. On purpose.
Yeah.
He's fucking other women in their home.
On purpose.
But she's the one. She's the one that's given up. She's the one that's checking out of their marriage.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
Crazy. And the worst part is I think he's honest to God convinced himself that that's true. I think he twists the situation in a way that makes himself the hero or the victim of the story. And then he goes, yeah, that sounds right. And then he like dives in forward for the rest of his life with that as the true perspective of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When he and Jesse talk about Michelle and Brittany, they are always the victims. The women are always the perpetrators, and it's just gross. They can do no wrong. Those two men can do no wrong, and the women have ruined their lives and continue to ruin their lives. I don't understand.
Well, and then you look at these men when they were still together with their wives, and all you see is contempt. You don't see them enjoying time with their wives. You see them rolling their eyes at their wives. You see them going, God, they're such a nag. She never does XYZ. She's always making me XYZ. This is so annoying. And it's like, that's not a partnership that you want to be in. Fucking ew and gross, and I hate you. Yeah. And then you're shocked that she's like, I'm not happy. And he's like, why aren't you happy? I hate you.
Yep.
Ugh. So next week should be good. You ready for some really bad marriage talk?
Story time. True crime.
That's a good one. Yeah. So Keeley found not one, but 2 good ones this week. And it's another oldie but a goodie as far as like newsworthy stories, because this happened a while ago. But it's another thing where like I hadn't really followed the story at all.
Oh, really? Like at all?
No.
Oh. But you knew about it.
Very vaguely. I mean, I didn't know any of the details. I knew that she was blonde.
I knew she was blonde.
I
heart you.
She had been kidnapped. Yeah, like that's all I knew. We really connected to the story because we both have blonde hair. I have blue eyes. Keeley's eyes are very, very green.
I love you.
But otherwise, I didn't pay attention to the story
at all.
I just wasn't in the headspace at the time. So here's the deal. The Sherri Papini documentaries, one is on Hulu, one is on HBO. Thank God I watched them back to back. And we were only going to talk about the beginning of one, and then the other one. I couldn't not watch all of it. So luckily we watched all of it. And thank God I watched the 2 different perspectives.
Yeah.
Because the last time I did that, I only watched the Hulu Casey Anthony one, and I was wrong. So at least now I have differing perspectives. So we'll kind of see where you and I both end up after watching both of those.
Oh God, I don't
But
know.
tell me a story, Keeley.
Oh my God. Well, the Hulu, it came out last year in 2024, when right after it happened. So Sherri Papini, she's this, they called her the real life Gone Girl. And I'm not sure if everybody knows about that. Was a movie with Ben Affleck where his wife went
So
missing. Yes. And yeah, it was really wonderful. Anyway, so it starts with November 2nd, 2016. We're in Redding, California, and we have a 911 call from Keith Papini, and he comes home from work and no one is in his house. He is expecting his wife Sherri to be there and his 2 young kids, and no one is there. And he is thinking, well, maybe they're outside. So he goes outside. They live in a very big, beautiful property. And so he goes outside. They're not outside. So he gets pretty concerned. And he has some text messages that he hasn't heard from his wife since before lunch. She had asked him to come home from lunch, and he couldn't come home from lunch. So he gets in the car and drives down to the mailbox, which is about a mile or so away, and finds her cell phone on the ground near the mailbox with her earbuds still attached and some hair, a clump of hair attached to the cell phone and the earbuds. So he is very upset, takes a picture of it, calls 911 and says, hey, my wife is gone. My kids are gone. I found her cell phone. And he is clearly upset. So he says, look, my wife's not here. My kids are not here. They should have been picked up from daycare. He says, I took a picture of the phone. So he calls her sister, Sherri's sister, tells her sister, her name is Sheila, what's going on. So the police get there and we get to see a picture of the cell phone. And the cell phone is upside down on the ground, and the earbuds are connected to a wire like this, a cord, and it's very nicely wrapped around with some hair on top of it. So you look at it and you're like, well, if somebody had grabbed her and she was holding onto the phone and she had dropped the phone, right, released it from her hands, how could it be so nicely placed on the ground? Because the cord was so wound nice in the picture. That's the first thing everybody noticed. Anyway, so her purse and her credit card and her ring, everything was still at the house. She had gone running. She had gone jogging that day. That's what her husband, Keith, had told the police. So they find the children. They're still at daycare. They go pick them up. Everybody's safe. So now they're looking for her. They think it's an abduction. They're not quite sure what's happened to her, where she's at. So the police come down. They're interviewing Keith, the husband. Obviously, everybody says, well, they have to look at the husband first, right? Mm-hmm. And then they start interviewing the neighbors, right? They have to figure out this couple to see what kind of relationship they have. If it's a good relationship, it's a bad relationship. So they interview the neighbors and friends and family, and some family, some friends. So the neighbors say, yeah, we've heard them fight. We've heard them have yelling and screaming matches before. Some neighbors have said, yeah, he gives me the creeps. The husband's not a good guy. We don't like him. Some friends of Sherri has said, he abuses me. He hits me. They find Sherri's journals. She says that Keith wants a housewife, like a 1950s housewife, where he's very controlling. He wants her to bring him a sandwich naked, which I don't really know in the 50s that they did that.
I don't know if that's what was going on. Sherri she looks like a Disney princess. right?
Yeah.
She's like 5'3" something,
Yeah.
maybe, and she weighs like 100 pounds. And
Mhm.
she looks like she's entangled. She's like this little thing, and she, exactly what you were saying, he's an easy man to please. He just needs to have a sandwich brought to him naked. And you're like, it's not, I don't know if that's something that just continues to happen for the rest of forever, but
Yeah. So some people do say that Sherri has a way of creating different realities for different people, right? Her stories, depending on the person she's telling the story, is a different story for that person. So she can embellish a story or change the story based on who she's talking to. So the police are getting all this differing information about Keith, different information about Sherri, so they're not quite sure about this relationship. It's 2016. They got together in 2009. So they bring Keith into the police station to interview him about their relationship. And we see this interview video, and they're like, hey, tell us what's going on with your relationship. Do you guys have a good relationship? Do you have a bad relationship? And he said, well, we had this little blip early on. And he said, the police say, well, tell me what that's about. And he said, well, I looked at her phone. There were some text messages with her and another man. She seemed to be having, I guess, an emotional affair with this person. So we got a post nuptial. It was after we got married, but before kids. And we have that now. But since then, we've had kids and things have been okay. And they said, oh, okay, well, so she's a stay-at-home mom. Their finances are separate. I guess part of the postnuptial was their finances were separate. She paid part of the bills. He paid part of the bills, but he agreed that he wasn't going to pay for daycare if she was a stay-at-home mom. I was a little.
She had worked at AT&T.
Yeah.
And she had done really, really well working for AT&T, but then they had massive layoffs.
Yes.
And when that happened, she was like, she got a fantastic severance package. And she's like, awesome. I'm going to just be a stay-at-home mom for a while.
Yeah.
And Keith didn't love that because, if all of the financial burden on their household is on him, he doesn't like that.
Yeah.
But she got that severance package, so she's living off of this. And she is sending her kids to daycare. Keith's like, I'm not paying for this. If you're home, why are they going to daycare? You pay for it.
Yeah.
So she's paying for that, and she paid for a boob job.
Yes.
And at that point, he does mention, he's like, but that money was running out that she had gotten, so she was probably going to have to go back to work soon.
And here's the thing. I don't fault him for saying, why are the kids going to daycare if you're staying home? I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't think that's mean. I don't think that's not okay to say. I mean, if she wants to have them in daycare for part of the day so she can do whatever she wants to do as a stay-at-home mom, I think she should pay for it. If they agreed to have separating finances and he said, look, you need to pay for it, I don't think that's unreasonable. That's just me. I don't think he's being some ogre by saying that.
I don't think so. I think every couple has to find their balance of what are you cool with, what am I cool with, and the workload, the mental load, and all of the tasks and things, right? I do think I am totally pro kids going to daycare even if they have a stay-at-home mom. However, who pays for it, where's that money coming from, is super important. And it doesn't seem like he was really expecting to be the sole provider. And so I think once that money ran out, things were going to have to be different for her. And I think that's a big part of this story.
She seemed to be a little concerned about where the money was going to come from. The FBI get involved. We meet a couple FBI agents. But for the most part, this little small town described her as super mom, like we said before. She was always doing arts and crafts with the kids, always doing these big birthdays for the kids. Keith does take a lie detector test. He does pass this lie detector test. So the police say, okay, we're going to rule you out and really start working with Keith and not against him. Then they go on from there. So after a while, they suspend the ground search. They have, 250 people out every day looking for Sherri in the woods, trying to find her, and they're not finding anything.
What was interesting to me about this is they said this was kind of one of the first cases that went so viral.
Right.
Like, she's a missing person, and everyone in the country found out about it, except for me because I didn't watch the news. Yeah. Everyone was talking about this story. People were on Facebook, and Keith, some people looked at it as like, this is suspicious, and other people were like, he's just savvy. But he was putting his face out there. He was putting her face out there. He was going, share this on Facebook, everybody. Yep. He was making sure that her name stayed in the media. And he was really pushing to have the FBI get involved. Mm-hmm. And he was making it a point to just really promote this in a way that would stay at the top of mind for everybody. He was very media savvy in a way that hadn't really been seen before. He's doing interviews. He's on the news. He's, crying, having breakdowns. But yeah, so some people found that suspicious. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, I think he's creepy. And other people, it was just him doing what he needed to do as a husband.
Yeah. We get to meet her parents, and we get to meet a childhood friend. I guess growing up, she had some childhood trauma, a couple of trauma experiences from her parents. Her mother was not a great parent to her. One of her friends witnessed a couple of things from her mother. Sherri moved out when she was 16 years old. Had a couple of boyfriends here and there. So we get to hear about that from people about Sherri. The detectives, now they're thinking, okay, so they cleared the husband, Keith, as a suspect. So now they're wondering, okay, is this a stranger abduction, or did she walk out on purpose? And everybody is saying she would never leave her children. She's too nice of a person. She loves her kids. She's a super mom. She absolutely would not think of doing that. That would never be on her mind. It had to be a stranger abduction. Or, like you said, the media keeps saying there's something wrong with the husband. He absolutely did it, even though you've cleared him as a suspect. So everybody keeps pushing under the rug that she walked out. She absolutely could not have walked out. That's not a thing. But they go through her cell phone. They do a cell phone search. They find out that 5 years ago, she had this emotional affair with this gentleman named Donovan. And this ends up being the little blip that Keith talked about that started this postnuptial. So she went on a conference in Michigan. She met this gentleman at a restaurant. They flirted a little bit, and Sherri ended up telling this man that Keith is horrible. He's violent. He's abusive. He physically locks her away. And this guy said, I didn't really believe her. She acted like a damsel in distress, but I was like, okay, well, whatever. So he texted with her for about 3 months back and forth. They talked about a possible life together back and forth. And then it just kind of stopped. And that's when Keith saw the messages and they got the postnuptial. And then Keith would say, when Sherri and Keith would fight, Sherri would then reach out again to these men. There were more than just Donovan. She would reach out to these men for attention, because Donovan would say, she would reach out and say, I was checking back in. What's going on? How are you? And he would say, hey, I'm in a relationship. And she would say, oh, okay, never mind, kind of a thing. And Keith would say this would happen every now and then. So it was not unheard of that Sherri was reaching out all the time, every time they would have a fight. Mm-hmm. You know what? I don't know about that. That's really a red flag. I don't know a lot of women that turn around when they have a fight with a man and start texting another guy and go, hey, what's going on? Hey, how you doing?
Mhm.
Hey, are you in town? Hey, how's it going? I mean, I don't think that's normal.
Or to put up with it.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, like to go like, all right, like that's just the MO of how things go. Seems
Yeah.
weird to me.
Yeah, she was texting this guy in April that same year. And we find out that he was in San Francisco. They live in Redding, which is, I think, an hour or so away. So the police start to tell Keith about this walkout theory. And maybe that's why she left, because of this guy that they texted in April. And maybe they were planning to meet up because they texted. He was in town. Sherri was look back and forth. You know, I'm in town. No, I can't meet you. Well, I'm coming. Well, this and that and the other. And Keith was like, boy, I didn't know anything about that, because we find out that Sherri had in her phone phone numbers for men, but they were females' names. And Keith didn't know that. So he was pretty upset when he found that out by the police. So they're telling Keith their theory that she has left on purpose. So then 22 days after she goes missing, so on November 24th, we have a 911 phone call 150 miles away from Redding. This gentleman calls 911 and says, hey, I have a lady on the side of the road that says her name is Sherri Papini and she's all chained up. So now Sherri is released.
That call.
Yeah.
How nuts was that call?
Yeah. So it's Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
Which again is another red flag for the police. Yeah. Why is she just automatically released on Thanksgiving Day? It's a holiday. They're thinking this is really...
It doesn't add up.
Weird.
Also, I gotta talk about that call. The 911 call.
Yeah.
It was either like that guy was genuinely confused, or like if...
Yeah.
Let's just say, so she's been missing. Yeah. And she shows back up. She's screaming in the background of this call. Yeah. And this guy sounds like he just woke up. Yeah. Like, he sounds so tired. And he's like, she says that this is her name, and then he pronounces her name wrong, and she's like screaming at him, correcting him. Yes. And then he's like, I don't know, I think she got in a fight with her boyfriend. She's like, no! Yes. And she's like, I'm chained up. I need an ambulance. Like, she's so furious at this man. I mean, she's hysterical, crying. And this guy is not communicating to 911 what she needs him to communicate. And you just hear her so frustrated in the background. Matt's like, if you have been gone for this long and suddenly this is the guy that finds you and he's supposed to be helping you. Yeah. And he can't even get a full sentence in correctly tonight.
Well, I just don't think that short of me giving my name, I would just be a puddle. Like, how can you function? If you have truly...
Just the relief of being found.
Yeah. You would be a puddle and barely able to speak, barely able to give your name. And she's shouting orders at this man. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe she probably said, I just left my boyfriend accidentally, right? I think she actually did.
I mean,
she didn't mean to say that.
Where else would that come from?
Yeah.
Where would that come from?
Yeah. 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 So,
and how did they find her?
100%. So they have these pictures of her in hysterics on the side of the road. Her hair is cut all off, chopped off at her shoulders, and she's in sweats, and she does have chains around her, chain links around her, zip ties on her wrists, which are very tight. They're making her skin kind of white. They're very, very tight. So they take her to a hospital. They call Keith, and I think her sister or his sister, I can't remember, It's either Sheila or Suzanne, one of those two women. He absolutely cannot believe it. The parents are having a balloon release that same day. Yeah. They all find out that she's been released, but Keith goes to the hospital. He says he pulls back the curtain and looks at her, and he says the way she looked at him, he knew she was lying. What kind of look does she have to give him for him to know she's lying?
Immediately it didn't feel genuine, and he went, no. But then immediately that feeling is erased.
Yes, because he feels guilty because she has bruises all over her face.
She was messed up.
Yeah, all over her body. She has burn marks on her arms. She has a brand on her back. She's been branded with the word Exodus and then numbers. It says 612.
Yeah.
Which is a verse.
Yeah.
Chapter 6, verse 12. And I have read it over and over again, and it is very...
Like about Moses?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I believe it talks about lying, just so you know, people.
Oh.
Yeah, so she has a brand that's starting to scab and fall off on her right shoulder, on her back. Obviously, she has the zip ties, bruising everywhere.
And the bruises are all from different times.
Yeah.
Like, there's some yellow bruises, and then there's some bright new purple-blue bruises.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear that this wasn't like she quickly did this before she got picked up, and she's lost a ton of weight.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, 100 pounds, she's, what, maybe.
She was just skinny. She was already teeny tiny, and now she's just emaciated and gaunt. It's sad.
Yeah.
Don't even.
Yeah, so they said that maybe her nose was broken or there was something wrong with her nose. She's screaming and sobbing. She only wants Keith. She doesn't want to talk to the police because she says the police are involved. Everybody's really confused.
She's like, you didn't find me.
Yeah.
That's the part that she kept saying. She's like, you're not who found me. I just want my husband. I only want my husband. You didn't help me. I want my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super confusing about that. So Keith just says, just tell me what happened. Forget they're here. Just tell me. She says two Hispanic women have abducted her in a dark SUV. There was one older woman and one younger woman, and she doesn't remember if she struggled, and she just says she wanted to go home. This is all she says in the hospital. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that's very confusing. They're taking pictures of her. Keith really doesn't know what to do, what's going on. He thinks she's lying, but then he feels guilty because of all of her injuries. He does this quite a bit. He goes back and forth with believing her and not believing her. I don't even know where else to go. It's just, there's so much.
There's so much.
There's just so much. So she does agree to do an interview with the police at her home, and they record the interview, but she says, I want my husband there. And the police say, look, typically we would do an interview alone. Without the husband, it would just be her. But she's very adamant that she wants Keith there. She feels protected. She feels safe with him. And they said, okay, that's fine. The video and the interview is
it's very strange.
It's very weird because she's acting very weird. She's almost flirting with them. She's
bubbly.
Very bubbly.
Making jokes.
At one point, she talks about the text message that she sends Keith about wanting to have sex with him at lunchtime.
Under the code name of lunch. And we saw the text. It wasn't overtly sexual. She wasn't like, come have lunch. But she spells it out for the cops. She's like, I'm so embarrassed. I was asking my husband to come have lunch with me. And you're like, what are you doing?
I mean, yes, literally like that. Her body language was overly dramatic when she was speaking to them, especially about that part. And then when she's she's questioned to remember about her abduction, then her body language is, then she curls up on herself. She brings her knees in up on her chest. And then she pretends to cry. And now she can't remember anything. But then it's something she wants to talk about. Her body language changes and she's awake and flirty and she can look around the room and she's not crying. It's very weird. Very strange.
And it's either she's like very like curled in and afraid, or she's like hysterical, like screaming, crying. It's huge. It's all extremes.
Yes. She says the day it happened, she had kids, did the breakfast. She took them to daycare. She did the text message to Keith to come home for lunch. She has a 5K running app on her phone. She goes to the mailboxes. She notices the car drive up, stop, and then pull back. The window rolls down. She sees that it's a woman wearing a hat, but she doesn't remember the color of the hat. The door opens to the car, and then she takes one of her earbuds out to hear what they're saying. Then she sees a small revolver. Then she says she ducks down. Then she says she puts the phone down, and then she says she can't remember anything after that.
She also purposely ripped out a piece of her hair.
Yeah.
To put with her phone.
So there's lots of, she tells this story like, in my mind, 3 different ways. In the Hulu documentary and in the HBO documentary. And it's red flags all over the place. If I had a red flag, I'd wave it every time I would say something. But the phone, her recollection of how the phone ended up on the ground is like 3 different ways.
Yeah. It's accidentally dropped. The other one is she did it very purposefully.
Yeah.
It doesn't all add up. She was trying to use to like endear herself. Like, I love my husband.
Yeah.
I love him. And that is kind of like a theme in the whole beginning of like her and Keith have this very curated, look how beautiful, and they're a good looking couple.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Look how good looking we are. Look at how in love we are. Look how perfect everything is.
Oh, yes.
She's super mom. It's all very contrived.
People on the Google machine do not like her story. They're like, it's a hoax. This doesn't make sense. They absolutely do not like her side of the story. They're telling everybody, they're like, she's lying. She absolutely is lying. So, and the police say she's running through the parking lot when she is released. And then when she's found by the police, she's chained up. So
arm tied to her behind the back.
How is she running if she's chained? So they're questioning that. They don't. Everybody's wondering about that.
I'm blown up so huge that now everyone is like, oh, she got found. This is so huge and dramatic. Well, wait, things aren't adding up. Things aren't coming together. And there's a media frenzy around their house.
Yes. They decide to go to therapy. They think that therapy will help her remember what happened. So they go to therapy twice a week for 2 hours each time. And the therapist, he goes with her. And the therapist says, well, why don't you write it down? And then this story comes out of 22 days. They write this book or whatever, this story called 22 Days, if you will. So here's my rub. My rub is with this GD story or book or whatever you want to call it. So how can she, and they have these, what is it called when she's...
The excerpts?
Yeah, the excerpts of the story that she writes, or however you want to say it. How can she remember so vividly these words for her book, but she can't recall it for the police? I'm bothered by that because he's got the book and he's reading it, right? And she has named the older woman Smegma and the younger woman
Gross.
Taint. But I mean, she is literally writing a book and narrating it. I am in this room and I'm not a good writer. I can't even come up with, I don't even know.
She's like, I can smell.
Yeah.
It was actually a nice
overly
narrative.
dramatic.
So embellished. She's like, I can still smell the mustiness of the carpet, the roughness on my knees, every fiber in the, and she's very elaborate and verbose, and
It bothered
was
me.
very dramatic.
Super bothered me.
But they're trying to get all of this information for her, but at the same time, Keith, he's got this wife who's been through this hellacious trauma.
Yeah.
And part of him feels very dirty and wrong because things aren't adding up for him either, but also he is completely consumed with taking care of his wife at this point. He's having to deal with all of her triggers. He's taking her to therapy twice a week for 2 hours at a time, and he's got to sit with her the whole time.
Yeah.
He's also like trying to figure out who the fuck did this. Like, this is fucking terrifying. He's scared. Are they going to show up and try and finish the job? While at the same time, it's eating away at the back of his mind. Like, did she? Is this real? I don't know. But he doesn't really have time to really question her because he's dealing with her body being in tatters. He's dealing with all of her PTSD triggers. Can't have black beans in the house.
Can't listen to Hispanic music.
Oh no, that'll throw her off. She has to see people making her food.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, because she knows that she'd been drugged with the food, so she's terrified of that. She wouldn't go to sleep unless all the lights were on.
Yeah.
So she's got all of this stuff going on. Now, he's also putting his energy into trying to track all of this down, which I thought he thought of stuff I didn't even think of. And he was sitting there with the police, then with the therapist, going details.
Right.
We're going to figure it out. I mean, that he drew out the description of the closet in the bedroom that she had been locked in and gave that to the police and the FBI. And then he was like, she might remember more about the ladies. Can we get a police sketch artist? And the FBI is like, here's the best sketch artist we got. Here you go. And then the part that I thought was really interesting is that she had started to describe the table that was in the room. Yeah. That she had to lean on when she was getting her back branded. Yeah. And he found it on Wayfair. Yeah. Which was impressive to me. Yeah. Because I can't find a new ottoman on Wayfair.
Yeah. He admitted to the therapist at one point that he didn't believe her. And the therapist said, okay, fair. Thank you for saying that. But, look at all of her injuries. Look at the brand on her back. And he said, okay, you're right. I'm sorry. Well, so,
the first thought was, she's like, do you think that she could inflict this kind of stuff on herself? Yeah. And he was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. But then the therapist was like, oh my God. And he was like, yeah, I'm crazy. I know. I don't know.
Yeah. And then we hear a story about how she did inflict injuries on herself. He does tell a story when she was with an ex-boyfriend about how she did cut herself, her back, with some knives. But she tells different people different stories about those scars. That's what I meant about in the beginning. Different realities, different stories to different faces. So he's like, yeah, I can see her doing those things to herself. So, like I said, he does go back and forth saying, I don't believe her, but I do feel bad for her.
I think you feel guilty for not believing.
Yeah. The kids were tremendously affected by it, and it was very hard to watch. And he knew that. He would say, if you're going to have a moment or an episode, can you do it in another room? He would ask her to do that. He would draw floor plans. He would get shoe boxes. He would try and do all these things for the police and for her to try and remember more. And again, that just bothered me so bad that she could write a book but she couldn't remember other things. It just didn't make sense to me. So the internet got upset about her naming the perpetrators as Hispanic women. This old blog came out that, yeah, she was a racist.
It was this story that had her photo and her name on a white supremacist website.
Yeah.
That then goes into a story about these Latinos taking over her town, and they had like broken into her family's pizza shop. Her family never owned a pizza shop. And then she beat the shit out of them, and she's taking her town back from the Latinos. It was this really awful racist story, which in some ways reflected what her life was, but also in a lot of other ways just had a lot of falsehoods that just made her look better. She claims that she has no idea where that came from and that she didn't do it. But who would do that?
Yeah. But kind of leaning towards she probably did it. Anyway, that's
probably
me.
Racist. Well, yeah, she said bad things about mariachi music.
Yeah.
She wouldn't let people have black beans in the house.
And as we know from the Valley, two things can be true at the same time, everybody.
Yes. 100%. Mm-hmm.
And then we find out in 2020, so now we're 4 years from what happened. DNA has been reviewed and has been found on her underwear from a male suspect. So she has never mentioned that there is a man anywhere in this whole story, but there's male DNA on her little undies. So now we have that thrown in the mix, and what are we going to do with that? It's 2020, and they test the DNA. They do this kind of, I guess, genealogy kind of DNA, because they don't have the specific,
exact match,
right? The exact match DNA. They do like a family genealogy DNA, and it comes back to her ex-boyfriend James. Mm-hmm. So it is James' DNA, and they go and talk to James. And he lives in Costa Mesa, California, a couple 100 miles away, which is, about 9 hours. And they knock on the door and they talk to him, and they go in there, and he's like, yeah, I know Sherri. And have you seen her? Nope, I haven't seen her. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, no. Yeah. After about an hour, James says, yeah, she was here. And no, I did not kidnap her. She asked me to come pick her up. And she asked me to do all of these things to her. And the police were absolutely stunned. They said, all right, back up. Tell us what's going on. They said, did you do any of these injuries to her? And he said, well, I helped her, but I didn't do them to her. Like, I shot a hockey puck off of her leg. That's how she got one of the bruises.
She asked me to do that.
She asked me to do that. She took my hockey stick and broke her own nose with it. I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought all the stuff to do the branding. So they began to walk around his house. They found the room that she described in his home. They found the coffee table that she described laying on to be branded. They found the closet that she claimed she was chained up in. They found the window that was boarded, the mattress. So they know she was in James' house. They asked him about all the injuries, and he said, look, she did all these things to herself. I was gone every day, most all day long. And they said, hey, she lost weight. And he said, look, she had all the food that she wanted to eat. She just restricted herself. She would eat food, but she wouldn't eat a lot of food. That's how she lost weight. She was free to leave at any time. She just wouldn't leave. And then one day she just said, hey, I want to go home. Take me home on Thanksgiving. And that's what I did. I drove her home that day. And she said, at this point, pull over. And I got out. And she got out. And that's what happened. And then I have been here ever since. And the police were completely floored. James took a lie detector and he passed.
They describe him as a burnout.
Yeah.
And he's not actually in either documentary. There's 2 seconds where he's being recorded, but not with his permission.
Mm-hmm.
But that is so insane.
Yeah.
She's described in detail 22 days of being held captive and tortured horrifically. She talks about the 2 women and how awful they were. And then you find out from James that, well, his side is that she just hung out with him. She said that she was being abused by her husband and she wanted to get out, and he was just being a good friend and went and helped out and picked her up and did what she wanted to do. She wanted him to hit her with a hockey puck, and so he did it. That seems insane to me.
Yeah.
But all of this becomes so insane.
Yeah.
But the police go, checks out. Based on him passing that polygraph test and based on the evidence that they have, they clear him. And they're like, he said that that's what it is.
Yeah.
So when they confront her.
Yeah. So about 3 days later, after they talk to James, they call Keith in and say, hey, will you come down to the police station? We have some new information. And we want to talk to you about it. Sherri did have also, I forgot to mention, a rash up and down her arms. And they asked James about this rash. And he said, she cleaned my house. And they said, excuse me? And he said, yeah. She asked me to buy some cleaning supplies. And she cleaned my house. And she was allergic to these cleaning supplies. That's how she got this rash. I mean, think about that. She knew she was allergic. She did it on purpose so she would get this rash. I mean, that is psychopathic. Anyway, I just had to say that. So they bring both Keith and Sherri in to give this information. So they just slowly feed this information a little bit at a time to Sherri. They're talking specifically to Sherri. Keith is just sitting there. And that
he's reacting to everything.
Yeah.
He's thrilled. They're like, look, see this table? See this picture of we found the place that you were in. And Keith is like, holy shit.
Yep.
They figured it out. They found the people. This is like, oh my God, we're going to get justice. Because they've still been dealing with Sherri for the last 4 years, having all of this PTSD, and their life has been completely circling around her trauma.
Yeah. Ugh. So they have a picture of the inside of James' house and they show it to him and they're like, oh my God, that's it. And Sherri goes, well, that's similar, but that's I don't know that that's it.
It's different.
That's different. And she's kind of making a joke and you can tell she's getting uncomfortable because she knows. And they say, well, the DNA came back and it's James. It's your ex-boyfriend. And she's like, no, that's not it. And then they say to Keith, do you want Keith to stay in the room for the rest of this, or do you want him to leave? And then she looks at Keith and is like, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And he was like, I want to stay. Are you kidding me? I am not leaving this room.
After she has made him be with her
for 4 years.
Yep. They said COVID hit.
Yep.
And it was like nothing really changed for them because they had been on lockdown at their house because of the media frenzy.
Yep.
And also because of her triggers from PTSD.
Yep.
He had been in her therapy sessions with her every week, twice a week for 2 hours at a time. She couldn't be by herself. And all of a sudden she's like, do you wanna go step out?
Wait, what? Of course he's gonna be like, I'm staying right here. Are you fucking kidding me? And so they say, well, it's James. The DNA is James. And she's like, no. And they said, yes, it is. This is James' house. We talked to James 3 days ago, and he said that you told him, you called him, you asked him to come pick you up. You did all of these things to yourself, and there is no women. This is all you. And she doubles down and says,
Yeah.
no, it's 2 women. She goes into hysterics, starts crying, and is absolutely does not waver from this stupid story.
No, the craziest part is that suddenly she's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to press charges against her.
What?
And they're like, there is no woman. She's like, no,
Right.
she's the reason that I'm with my children. Because
Yep.
I guess she had said that the reason they let her go is that something went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to do something like sell her maybe or something, but something went wrong. She didn't understand they were speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
But then she heard a fight, and then there was a gunshot, and then Tate, the smaller, nicer Mexican woman, drove her back and then pushed her out of the car. But she's the reason that she's still alive and gets to be with her children, so she's not going to do anything to go against that woman, and she's protecting Taint now.
None of it makes sense. Any sense.
You named her Taint.
Yep. No. So Keith is extraordinarily upset. He stands up, tells one of the police officers, I need to talk to you outside alone. They get up and leave. Sherri is still saying, nope, none of this. Nope, it's not James. It's these women. And they don't charge Sherri with any crime at this point. She is free to leave at this point. Sherri and Keith leave the police station, but Keith is very mad at Sherri and says, nope, you cannot come home, and does not let her come home, and says,
Kicks her out.
basically, you have lied to me. His instinct was correct and says, you have lied to me. Do not come home. I don't want you around the kids, and won't let her come home. So Keith goes to his mentor. He's an older friend. His name is Dale. And he says, what do? I have 2 stories. I have Sherri's story, and I have her ex-boyfriend James' story. I don't know who to believe. I don't know what to do. What do I do? And his friend says, okay, you have 2 stories. What do you want to do? Who do you think you should believe? So Keith's like, well, I guess when you put it that way, I guess I'll believe my wife. I'll believe my wife.
He had a really good argument that it was like, all right, if you find out that you're wrong, who is it going to be more painful to find out that you were wrong? If James lied to you when you were wrong, that's going to be a lot worse than if your wife lied to you and you were wrong. Believing your wife and then finding out that you're wrong is not as bad as believing this other guy and then finding out that you're wrong and that really your wife has been traumatized and a victim. He lets her back in.
Yeah.
Ugh,
is right. So he lets her back in, and he says it's really awkward in the house. They're trying, he's trying to believe her. He says, I'm going to choose to believe my wife. And at this point, right, the police and the FBI are still looking at Sherri. They're like, yeah, nope, we believe James. We absolutely do not believe Sherri. They find a secret Pinterest board with wood burning tools and branding that Sherri didn't tell them about. They just keep finding all of these things that lead them towards Sherri's still a liar. Hint, hint, Sherri's a liar. So they're trying to build this case where they can charge Sherri with some federal crimes. It takes them 2 more years to be able to charge her with some federal charges.
right.
So finally in March of 2022, they arrest Sherri. They charge her with making false statements to the FBI and mail fraud because she has signed up for some victim funding and she is getting all this extra income from the state of California that she doesn't deserve. Thousands and thousands of dollars, which is what that mail fraud is. So she is released 5 days after her arrest, and Keith is not there at her release, which I wouldn't be either if I were Keith. That's just me, people. She is released with an ankle bracelet, and so that is in March. And in April, she pleads guilty.
Yeah. Decides to take a plea deal.
Yeah. She decides to take a plea deal. But Keith says, wait a minute, why are you pleading guilty if you did nothing wrong? That's interesting.
Well, he comes home, she's at the house, and she's like, let's talk about it.
Yep.
And then strips naked and is like, we should fuck.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And she was like, listen,
Here's
at this.
the thing.
Here's the thing. Also, I'm going to take this plea deal. No big deal. I'm just going to have, like, house arrest, which is basically what we're doing anyway, so it's all whatever. And he's like, how is it all whatever? No. And she's like, no, it's exactly the same. We've been hanging out at home anyway. Now we're just hanging out at home without the victims fund.
She is a psychopath. Ugh. So she gets sentenced to 18 months in prison, $300,000 in restitution, and there you go. Anyway, so she turns herself into federal prison. She only ends up doing 10 months of the 18 months. And we do find out that the kids tell Keith that Sherri has been basically poisoning them for attention. She soaks rags in rubbing alcohol, puts them in a Ziploc bag, ties a string around the Ziploc bag, and then puts the bag around their neck while they inhale the fumes, get sick from the fumes. She takes them to the doctor, and then we just do this over and over and over and over again. So he effectively gets full custody, legal and physical custody, and there you have it.
So crazy.
That's where that Hulu documentary ends. She gets out of prison. She goes to a halfway house, and then we're not quite sure what happens to her after that. And then, like Jen said, I texted her and said, she has her own documentary coming out saying, you know, haven't you ever lied? And wouldn't you like to hear my side of the story? And I'm thinking, what in the hell does she have to say?
Right.
When she has admitted guilt, right? And so I thought, well, I never really watched the Hulu documentary. I want to see what this HBO thing has to say. And this HBO documentary, spoiler alert, effectively she is going to blame James. She just says James.
Well, Keith and James.
Yeah, Keith and James. Yeah. James is the perpetrator, right? He's the one that inflicted all of these. But there's more to it than that. So the HBO documentary, she is so overly dramatic. She's so wacky.
From the very beginning.
Yes.
The very first thing, she's like, everyone wants me to be able to go and just make it all nice. She's like that's my magic wand.
Harry Potter.
I'm going to do weird things because this whole thing is so strange. And it was like, you are putting on a whole fucking show.
Yeah.
But this version, it's from her perspective. She's retelling the story.
Right.
And
yeah,
they have her therapist.
Yeah. Oh my God.
They have Keith's sister who's fully on her side.
Yes.
They're showing a couple of the FBI agents who are not on her side. The lady FBI agent.
Yeah.
She was fucking badass. At first I was like, what a cocky bitch. And then I was like, oh, what a cocky bitch.
Yeah, their perspective from their investigation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They didn't trust her at all.
No.
So much of what they're doing, and they're giving this perspective of all of her stuff that it comes from is really from her person.
Oh my gosh. What? I've
Listen,
never
Jax
heard
Taylor.
of. 100%.
It's like, well, she wasn't totally in control of this because she had trauma when she was younger that was never addressed, and so now she's got this personality disorder where she fawns over everyone, and she seeks out like positive attention from men, and she'll lie to ingratiate herself with people and to get attention. And you're like, I think that's just middle school, but then you get over it, and she did not.
No.
And it also is interesting because as they go through, they're also interviewing her parents and
Oh, God,
showing
yeah.
a lot of the same stuff. One of the things I thought was interesting is she's throwing Keith under the bus.
Yes.
The whole time.
Every
in
turn.
This,
Every turn.
in this documentary. I think that this is one of those situations where she's clearly a liar. Like, she doesn't even deny, I am a liar. Although she also Jax Taylors it and goes, are you saying that you've never lied? And she's like, I'm talking to you, the viewer. You've never lied? And then she looks at like the producer and she's like, all of you, I've seen everyone on this crew lie since we started filming. And you're like, okay, sure. I mean, they're trying to make a documentary, so they're not going to fight with you. But like, what the fuck? I have lied in my life. There were times in my life that I think calling me a liar would be fair. I've never faked a fucking kidnapping. She's saying that she actually, I'll let you get into it, but like the lengths that she goes to lie and do all of these things, and then she's like, but you've lied too. She's nuts. But she reminds me of Jax Taylor in this. But I do find her, I think some of the points that they make in this, I do end up finding her, I don't think the word is believable, but I'm kind of on her side for parts of it. Because in the Hulu documentary, Keith is showing all of these videos of his kids, and his kids' faces are all over this documentary. And I don't agree with putting kids' faces on TV, at least, especially not in that. I thought it was weird that Keith had his kids in that. And there were times, I mean, it's Keith's documentary, so he gets to give his perspective and make himself the hero in all of it. But there's definitely parts where you can see, like, he's kind of a dick of a husband. Just as much she's manipulative and clearly emotionally cheating on him at the very least, he seems like a shitty husband to have to deal with as well. So
what dick move was he doing? A dick move to show your kids.
I think that it's weird when these kids have been forced into the spotlight. I think you should be trying to protect your kids by not putting them out there. He could have done the documentary and had his face there and then blurred out his kids' faces. I don't think celebrities' kids should have to be seen. I don't know. I thought that was like he was using them to his advantage in the documentary, which is his right. But it was just also like, I felt like it put his kids in a weird position. Because they're still really young. I think they're both in elementary school still, it looked like to me. And I think she's describing him as controlling. Their friends and family are describing him as controlling. There's the bit where like he was checking in on her all the time. She wasn't allowed to have a Facebook page because he didn't want people looking at her. But then it's like, we don't know how much is true and how much isn't. So I don't know. But it seemed believable or plausible. Not necessarily that I'm 100%. I think he was probably a dickhole of a husband. I think if you don't trust your wife anymore, I don't think you get a post-nuptial agreement to say, I get everything. And then he was controlling all their finances.
Why wouldn't you do that when she's cheating on him?
I would get a divorce, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But also they seemed a little Mormon. She said she'd never been drunk and she barely even drank coffee.
But she knew that they were drugging her. I mean, she doesn't make any sense. No. She doesn't make any sense. She knew that she was being drugged in the food, but she'd never had coffee before or drugs. So how is that making any sense? Everything she says doesn't make sense. But you're completely convinced that the fact that he was a complete dick, well, he was showing...
I'm not completely convinced, but I feel like I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's one of those cases of they're both assholes and then she let it go to an extreme. Like, they should have just broken up.
Your opinion that they should have just broken up. He said, "You're cheating on me. I'm not going to put up with this again. We have a postnuptial. We don't have kids. When we have kids, it's over. I get everything." How is that being a dick?
I'm just saying it shows like a level of control.
100%. She shows a level of not reliability and not being trusted when she's cheating on.
Sure. But
So,
I think that if you're going to come back together to say, like, if you ever fuck up again, I get everything, that puts her in a position. I think that her argument is, and what her argument ends up being is...
Why does she deserve it, though? Why does she deserve to get everything when she's the one cheating? She's cheated a second time. Now they're done.
Yeah.
So why does she deserve to get anything?
Well, they're in California. It's a no-fault state. They should split it 50-50.
And he knows that. So she's cheated a second time. Now they're done. Why should she get anything? That's what his point
California,
is.
Well,
That's
yeah,
what his point
sure.
is.
I see his point. I'm just saying, I'm saying her argument is plausible. I'm not saying that he's a monster and this is all his fault. I think she's a monster. I'm just saying I can also see plausibly that he's a dick. And like, she's cheating on him because she's not getting the attention that she wanted. Is that all his fault? Who knows? Was their marriage... But their marriage wasn't good, and they're both acknowledging that
this is the same guy that stayed with her and let her back in the house after he knew she lied. And you're believing that it's plausible that he was controlling her? That doesn't make sense to me. This is what I'm saying. He chose to let her back in after he knew and had proof that she was lying. But it's plausible. See, that's what I'm saying. What she says is garbage.
Oh, sure. No, I think it's 100%. She's already clearly not reliable.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of evidence to show.
And she's cheating over and over and over.
Cheating over and over and over again. I think both things can be true. I'm not saying he's fully the monster that she's saying that he is, but I think there are parts of that are true, I guess is what I'm saying. I think there are parts of it where, like, they're in a toxic relationship, but they're just going to keep going with it because they're, I don't know, addicted to it. He's now gotten to a point that he has a certain amount of control over the relationship that he's not going to let go of. She's not going to leave because he's got her in a shit position where she's not going to have anything financially or the kids. He'll be able to take all of that away. I'm not saying that she's a victim of him, but their relationship was shit. And he contributed to that. That's all I'm saying.
I just think there's more proof that he is trying to take care of her after over and over and over again. All she does is treat him like garbage. But then she turns around and wants people to believe that she's a victim.
Yes. No, I think there's also, and agreeing with what you're saying right now, the worst part of what she did to him, in my opinion, I mean, all of it's terrible, but then there's one part where he was talking about, this is a few years after the abduction, she and he are outside, he's working on a project, he's building something for her outside.
Oh, yeah.
And she is telling him to do something differently, and he snaps at her.
Yep.
And then she's like, oh my God, I'm triggered. And he goes, can we go one fucking day?
Yep.
She's like, I get it. This was awful. But can we go one fucking day without hearing about your triggers? And she turns on him and just switches and goes, well, I have to live every day knowing that you didn't bind me. And this is years after he's been doing all of this stuff for her. Doing everything for her. So, yeah, 100%. I think that he is not this horrible, awful person. I just think that their relationship was shitty. And I'm saying that I'm willing to believe that he contributed to that. She obviously is a mountain and he is a molehill of who's contributing to it. But she's like Jax. She's going to find the one little thing that he did, accidentally hit her in the face with a Wii, and turn that into my husband beats me.
Yep.
And that's what it is.
Yep.
And she does admit in her documentary that she did lie about the two Mexican women.
Yep.
But that's the only thing she lied about. It wasn't 2 Mexican women.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is true. And it was James who abducted her.
The Mexican women idea came from James's mother. She was trying to clue the police in on that it was James that was holding her. She thought that if they picked up on James's mother, that it would lead them back to James somehow. Again, none of that makes any sense.
Mm-mm.
No.
My favorite reason is why that makes no sense. Because James Reyes' mother is not a older, bushy eyebrowed, curly, black-haired Mexican woman.
Mm-mm.
She's Irish.
Yeah.
She's Irish.
Again, that's another lie out of
It's another lie. She's still
Sherri's
clearly
mouth.
lying.
She's still clearly lying.
She says that she had been texting James. I had been having an emotional affair with him.
Yep.
And I had been leading him on. I was sending him these messages, and then he was taking it too seriously, and I decided I wanted to cut it off. And then he didn't like that, and he said he was going to come visit. And then when he showed up, she didn't expect him to show up.
Mm-hmm.
He had rented a car.
Yeah.
She can't remember getting into the car, but she was abducted. And he then took her to his house all the way in California. She had been drugged, and he then tortured her and raped her and abused her for 22 days.
Yes.
And this story makes perfect sense to her new lawyer.
And Keith's sister, right? So she has now moved in permanently with Keith's sister. Keith's sister.
Yeah.
So
Keith's sister doesn't really like Keith.
Yeah. And so they have become bosom buddies. Yeah. And so now she has a lawyer that believes this story.
Big peacock feather earrings.
Yeah. Oh my.
She's vaping. She looks like a skinny Beth Chapman from Dog the Bounty Hunter.
I can't with her. Yeah.
She was funny. But she had had a horrific experience where she had been partying on a yacht in Mexico.
Oh my God.
And then was assaulted by 7 men and drugged and assaulted. And when she woke up the next morning to try and run away, she was in the middle of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And so she knows what it's like to have to ingratiate yourself with these captors to escape. And she's like, you do whatever you have to do. And I've done that. So this lawyer and her dad, who is also a lawyer, who are representing her in her family court case to try and get custody of her children. They are 100% like, there's going to be proof and we believe her 100%.
Yeah.
They also go on to say that the story that Keith tells about the alcohol in the Ziploc bag on that, none of that is actually true, and they did a thorough investigation, and all of that was found unfounded. And the only reason that he has full custody is not because of that, but because she was going to prison, and that's what happens when someone's going into prison.
Yep.
I don't know how accurate that is. Like, procedurally, is that like how it would go?
So
like,
there is, with CPS, there is what's called referrals, where like I could call on you, I could call and say Jen and Matt are abusing their kid, which is called a referral. And then CPS would say, okay, what's their address? I'm going to go do a knock and talk. They're going to come knock on your door. They're going to walk in your house, look around, talk to you, talk to your kid, and then go back to their office and type up a report and talk to their people and say, we're going to do a further investigation, or nope, we're going to stamp it and stick it in the file and it's dead. That's where the referral lays, and it doesn't go anywhere. Or they do a full-blown investigation and they call a judge and they get a warrant. They call it a kid warrant, and they take your kid from you. They could have just had a referral, which is non-founded, meaning they don't do the kid warrant and take the kid away. So they could have had something like that and never found anything founded on Sherri. Or that does happen quite a bit with parents who go away to get a prison sentence, they do. The judge does sign automatic custody to the other parent because they're going away, regardless of whether they've had referrals or not. So I guess both can be true. I don't know if we would really know either way. But I'm going to guarantee that he did call CPS, because in the other one, he said that they had the kids interviewed.
Yeah. Well, they said they, even in her documentary,
Yeah.
she and her lawyer said they did a thorough investigation because she's
Yeah.
already this high profile person.
Yeah.
And she's already known to be a liar. And
Yeah.
when I saw the Hulu one and he had those allegations, Matt and I watched that and we're like, she is awful. She should go to hell. Like, burn in hell that you would do that to your children.
Yeah.
And then she goes, no, we all have sensitive skin, which we know is true. She has cleaning things or giving her rashes. She's like, my kids have sensitive skin and I can't put Vicks on their chest if they're stuffy. So I would put it in a cotton bag with cotton balls with essential oils. I wouldn't let them sleep with it. And we're like, I don't know. She was quickly coming up with the safety measures of why that's a bad idea and how she wouldn't do that. But he also explained that his daughter knew exactly where the rubbing alcohol was.
Yeah.
And he seemed very believable, breaking down over that as well.
So she has an excuse for everything. So
She really
had an
does.
excuse for that. She had an excuse for the branding tools too. Remember when she pulled out of the closet all the branding tools, she said, and an excuse for her texting James back and forth talking about the branding tools. It was their Christmas gift ideas. I mean, she backtracks so much to come up with excuses. It's not even funny. And
She can find an answer anywhere.
yeah, she finds
It's
an
impressive.
answer
Yeah.
and an excuse and backtracks for everything. So that's why I absolutely do not believe her. I mean, they caught her. What was the lie they caught her? Was it the phone?
The phone was...
Yeah.
I mean, they got her a couple times. So
Yeah.
the phone was one. Yeah.
And she backtracked on that. They're like, well, that's not what you just told us how
She's
the
like,
phone
well,
came
sometimes
out.
I would elaborate. But I'm not lying now.
What?
She's lying then. She's not lying now.
So, yeah, I mean, the FBI talked about the phone. The FBI talked about her chains and running through the parking lot. The FBI talked about her Pinterest and the branding tools. I mean, they have all of these things to be able to charge her with a federal crime. They're not going to be able to charge her, go to a criminal court, go to a judge, find her guilty, have her in prison with no evidence. I'm sorry, this is what I do for a living. I'm so sorry, but I don't understand. I'm not quite sure.
They don't get all the way through that.
No.
With
And this
nothing.
is the FBI.
Right. I just desperately want James to talk about it. I want to hear him be
Yeah.
like, yeah, is he a dumb lollipop? Like, this is the part that he was like, she told me to do it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I keep getting stuck on. Because if someone told me, listen, I need you to bank a shot of a hockey puck off my thigh. I need you to hold this out. I'm going to run as hard as I can into it so it breaks my nose. I want you to brand my back. And both she and James were like, I don't know what Exodus 6:12 is about. It's something I don't know what that is. They're both like, I don't know. She says that he was doing all of that because that was the quickest way for him to reach sexual gratification.
Yeah.
And to make sure that it happened quickly and not inside of her. And that when she then eventually convinced him to let her go, she wouldn't tell anyone it was him because then Keith would know that she was cheating.
Yeah.
But Keith already knew that she was cheating.
Right. See, it doesn't
But then
make sense.
Keith would know that she was cheating, and then he would take her kids from her.
Yeah.
Which now, everything that she was lying to protect has already happened.
Yeah.
But then her lawyer told her not to say anything yet because it wasn't the right time.
Yeah. She said, would you lie to a federal agent to be able to lay next to your kids? You're not laying next to your kids right now. I mean,
Yeah.
The end result is you don't have your kids right now. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I mean,
Well, the whole premise is she was cheating.
Yep.
And the second that
Yep.
Keith finds out, her life will be destroyed.
Yep.
So then when she was doing this thing that put her in a dangerous situation,
Yep.
and she becomes a victim, she can't be honest about it because then it'll get even worse because of Keith. Yeah, it's just, it's whacked out.
Yeah.
She still doesn't have her kids. Ugh.
This is what I do for a living, and I'm going to tell you right now that judge is going to take a very, very long time deciding whether or not that woman has any contact with her children alone at any point or any sort of custody at all, because she is such a liar and she cannot be trusted at all. I don't give a shit if that woman is their mother at all, because that judge has to find some sort of proof that that woman can be trusted on some level at all. She will never be left alone with those kids, ever. She will never have any sort of custody of those children, ever. I don't care that she is their mother, because that judge is going to look at all of this stuff and go, there is nothing here that shows me that you are a safe person to take care of your kids. I don't care that you say X, Y, and Z. I don't care that you say X, Y, and Z about Keith. It doesn't matter. These judges do this stuff all the time. They have the biggest bullshit meter of anyone. They know what they're doing, and they have probably seen these documentaries. It is going to be years before this woman sees the light of day with her kids.
It was the ragtag team that she had with her walking into the courthouse for one of these custody hearings.
Yeah.
She's got her whacked out lawyers.
Yeah.
The dad lawyer is like steampunk.
Yeah.
And the daughter has like massive bleach blonde hair, over the top jewelry and makeup, chain smoking her vape.
Yeah.
And then Keith's sister, who is so thrilled to have a camera on her.
Oh, yeah.
Strutting with the biggest smile, with her big red lip and her very fun pants that I have
holding her
bought
hand
a few times.
Yeah.
Just arm in arm. It's a weird bunch.
Yeah.
That she's left with. She's also left with her parents and her therapist. In the Hulu documentary, her sister, Sheila, talks about how her parents were abusive. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think she talks about drugs.
Yeah.
And abuse in the household, neglect. And it seems like Sheila does not have a relationship with her parents.
Yeah.
And her mom was odd.
Yeah.
It felt odd. A lot of people remarked that her mom was odd. While she was missing, her mom was being interviewed and she's like, I'm not crying right now that my daughter is missing because I'm mad.
Yeah.
I'm mad that she's missing. And everyone's like, what? So she had a strained relationship with her mom. And now that she's out of prison, she had to move in with her mom.
Yeah.
And dad, and they have a good relationship now. And they're all having a nice breakfast together and they're praying. And they're talking about they hate Keith and they hate James. And then there's also this so what do you think happened? And they're like, well, we think that she thought she was going to hook up with him and have sex.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a longer thing. They don't even think she was abducted.
Oh.
They're like, no, she thought she was just going to a hotel for the day.
Yeah.
She willingly got in that car.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That was, when they said that, I literally stopped the video and was like, wait, what? Did I just hear what I thought I heard? Yeah, they're like, no, it wasn't an abduction. She full on went willingly. Wait.
And they're like on team Sherri.
Yeah. Yeah. And we also forgot to say Miss Sherri took a lie detector test.
Okay. Often are lie detector tests used in your experience, do you see these? It's not a real thing, right? Isn't it a pseudoscience?
Yeah.
And you can't really use it in court, right? But they can use it for documentaries.
Yeah.
Keith passed the lie detector test from the FBI, and they were like, cool, you're clear. James then passed the lie detector test, and they're like, cool, you're clear. Sherri did not pass the lie detector test.
Oh, Sherri.
She passed parts of it, but not all of it. And then the lie detector guy, administrator, technician, professional.
Police officer dude. Yeah.
He was like, I think that she probably was abducted. I also think that she's a liar.
Yeah.
And you're like,
cool.
What? You're like, so this is why they don't use this in court.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then how does it end? It was the best ending I've seen to one of these. Where she was like, do you think this is going to help me? And they're like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer, ladies and gentlemen, is no. Keeley does not believe her.
I do not believe her. I also do not believe that Keith is a violent, abusive piece of shit dickhole.
No, she says that Keith wasn't ever violent. Keith wasn't well, she did claim to her friends that he punched her in the face. But she claimed to other people, but then she says that and her lawyer says he was emotionally and financially abusive. And then Keith submitted paperwork that was like, yeah, when she would get money, I'd put it into our joint account so I could pay the bills.
Yeah. Every time she would say, Keith did X, Y, and Z, at the end of the episode, his lawyer would say, Sherri got X, Y, and Z. He would refute it with, I have documents to show that Sherri did this, or I have documents to show I did not do whatever. Like, just basically proving she's a liar. Again.
So,
yeah.
Now she's got this documentary, so she's probably getting paid for that.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it came out that she's writing a book.
Oh my gosh.
About this. I think it's probably going to be called 22 Days.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But we'll see how this all works out. But
oh my gosh.
I wish actually instead of people paying her to tell her story, her side of the story, because I was so interested in watching this documentary because I wanted to get some motivation from her that felt more substantial. And it all feels so rocky. I think because I just want a resolution to it, I go, okay, maybe.
No. There's no maybe.
No, Keeley says no.
There's no maybe, people. There's no maybe.
But I need a resolution. So what I need to happen is I need whoever would have been giving her money to give a better explanation or to continue the story on. I want them to just give all of that money to James Reyes, who has to live with his grandpa, the money, so then we can figure out what he says. Because I don't like living in this, we can't believe her, but we're not going to get a full explanation of what happened.
Here's the thing. When someone is telling the truth or someone knows what is happening in something that they're telling you. For instance, when I'm telling you about my job, right, about the CPS referrals and about when someone goes to court, right? There's, I'm not skipping a beat when I'm telling you. I'm not looking around the room. I'm not searching for answers. I'm not stopping. I'm not questioning what I'm saying, right? Because I already know the answer. That's what James was doing with the police when he finally admitted, look, yeah, I had something to do with it. She called me. Every time the police said, okay, did you have something to do with her injuries? Well, yeah, I shot a hockey puck off her leg. He did not skip a beat when he said that. Okay, well, how did she get branded? Well, yeah, I helped her do that. I went to Hobby Lobby and did that. He did not skip a beat when he said that. Okay, well, how did she get a rash? Well, I went to the store and she scrubbed it and she knew. He did not skip a beat. If he were lying, he'd be like, well, there was this product in the I guess it was like Clorox. Oh no, wait, maybe it was like Scrub Daddy. Do you see what I'm saying? The man did not skip a beat when he is talking to these people. You can tell between someone that is trying to make up like her. It doesn't make sense. It sounds stupid. And there's a bunch of pauses. And you're like, yeah, that guy is lying because he's trying to find the story.
The answer.
Yeah.
I think the part that I still keep getting stuck on is, if I asked you to hit me with a baseball bat, would you do it?
Probably. Look at your face.
Stop it. Listen, if I say that I'm on Keith's side.
Yes, because you're
But,
on
like,
Keith's side. Stop it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you want me on Keith's side.
I do want you on Keith's side.
I'm on nobody's side. I'm on the FBI agent side. She was so badass. Yeah. Just a fucking weird story. I want to know what was going on in that house. How did they have a conversation? How do you watch someone do that to themselves and then also participate in doing that for 22 days and go, okay.
Well, he didn't, though. He went to work, right? I mean,
That's
he did
true.
the hockey puck thing. He helped her with the branding. He went to work. She ran around the house like a crazy person and beat the shit out of herself.
And, like,
he
she
went.
had to have planned to, like, I'm going to need some proof that I've been abducted.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Who thinks like that?
A crazy person.
Crazy person. Crazy person. All right. Well, Sherri Panini, careful, because if Keeley sees you, it's on sight. And then next week we get to talk about Jax being crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy people all around. And then something else fun. We'll find another treat for True Crime Storytime.
Yeah.
I like the whole bit.
Yeah.
And I am going to figure out how they drugged Sherri Panini. I keep calling her Panini. Papini? Papanini.
Oh my God.
Papini?
Papini.
Papini.
Yeah.
That's fun to say. I'm going to figure out what they put in her beans and put it in the cat food because holy fucking shit.
And now they're quiet. Once we're done, now it's over.
Now they're done. They got it all out of their system. God damn it. Oh, all right. Well, this is a nice 3-hour episode.
Wow.
That I promised to get cut down.
Good 2 hours.
I would love to hear if anyone else also found Sherri a little credible and then quickly changed your mind. Keeley knows the truth.
Always. Always.
I mean, you see it.
Mm-hmm.
You break it down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not arguing with you. I think you're probably right. I told you. I was like poor Casey Anthony. So
oh my gosh.
I'm not a reliable... I'm not a good judge of character.
Mm-hmm. Terrible.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for being patient for this episode. And we will hear from you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.